Ash, and I am back with another video, and today I'm going to be watching Napoleon's Invasion of Russia 1812 by Epic History TV. I'm super duper excited about this episode right here because I'm not exactly sure what happened between Napoleon and Russia, because they did sign a peace treaty and they became allies, so I'm not exactly sure what happened. And I know that Russia is definitely a hard country to invade, especially during the winter months, so I'm dying to see how everything plays out. And if you guys would like to check out my other Napoleon videos, the link will be up at the top. And if you guys would like to check out my other Epic History TV videos, the link will be up at the top as well. And if you guys haven't subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Hit that red button so you can be a part of the family. Don't forget to give your girl a thumbs up. Enough of me talking, let's get straight into this reaction. One must never ask more from fortune than she can bring. Uh-oh.
Russia, 1812.
My hands are dry, y'all.
Napoleon invades his former ally with the largest army Europe has ever seen.
No.
But for the French Emperor, the decisive blow remains frustratingly beyond reach.
Before we go any further, please don't take my commentary the wrong way. Your girl just want to have fun. So I might blurt out some things or sound a little bit crazy, but it's just part of my personality. I feel like I need to say that sometimes because a lot of people want you to be so serious, and I don't want to be serious. I want to have fun. Like, I just want to have fun and just be myself. So I just felt like I wanted to tell you guys that.
Russia's resilience is unlike anything he's ever encountered.
Oh no!
And as winter closes in, his army begins the most infamous retreat in history.
I don't think they're ready for those winter months. Part 1. We playing with Russia, man.
In 1807, following his defeat of the Russian army at Friedland, Napoleon had traveled to Tilsit to meet the Russian Emperor
That's when they became allies,
Alexander.
right?
During their celebrated encounter, the two emperors formed a friendship and made an alliance. But it was not to last.
What happened?
Over the next 5 years, relations between France and Russia cooled dramatically. The Russians were irritated by Napoleon's creation of a Duchy of Warsaw in Poland, which they regarded as meddling in their own front yard. They feared it would lead to the return of a fully fledged Polish state, a traditional thorn in Russia's side. Then there was Napoleon's offer to marry Alexander's sister, Grand Duchess Anna Pavlovna, to cement their alliance.
But she couldn't bear his children, right? And then he ended up divorcing her and then marrying someone else?
But the Romanovs hated the idea, and after a year of Russian prevarication, Napoleon married Marie-Louise, daughter of the Austrian emperor, instead. Later that year, Napoleon broke a guarantee made at Tilsit and annexed the Duchy of Oldenburg, ruled by Alexander's sister's father-in-law. Worst of all was the fallout over the continental system.
Yeah,
Napoleon's not very effective economic blockade against Britain, designed to cripple his most steadfast enemy.
He had a hard time.
Alexander had agreed to join the continental system at Tilsit. But it was hugely unpopular in Russia and ruinous to her finances during a period of economic crisis. When Napoleon found out that Russia was flouting the rules of the system and had resumed an illicit trade with Britain, he was furious.
Okay, so at this point, it seems like it's a tit for tat. Russia is upset with Napoleon meddling in their business with Poland. So they're basically getting back at Napoleon, and now they're trading and dealing with Great Britain. This is what it seems like. Please comment down below and let me know. But this is how I'm taking it. It's kind of like a tit for tat thing. So one betrayed the other and the other one is betraying the other. That is so petty. But yeah, that's the way it seems.
With both emperors accusing the other of bad faith, their
See?
two countries began preparing for war.
Basically being
This
childish.
video is brought to you by our sponsor, Curiosity Stream,
So it's like,
home
oh,
of
I
more than
felt like you did
2,500
something, so I'm gonna do
documentaries
something to
exploring
you.
science, technology,
That's what
the
it
natural
basically
world,
is.
history, and more.
One felt
In
like
fact,
the
there are
other
so
one
many
betrayed the
fascinating
other, so the
topics
other
to
one
choose
is doing
from.
something to
Sometimes
get
you
back
just
at
have
the
to
other one.
dive in. If you're a little worried about humanity's future right now, would it be reassuring to know that life can bounce
But I
back from a
wonder if
major
they
extinction
would have been
event?
able to like
That's what happened
talk about it,
250
talk
million
things
years
out.
ago, following the Permian extinction, which we
Make
learned
sure
this
you guys
month
go
watching the
sign up
excellent
for
Breakthrough
Curiosity
Recovering from
Stream.
Extinction
Use
on Curiosity
Epic
Stream.
History TV
There are
as
many
the
other
promo
high-end
code.
documentaries like this waiting to inform and entertain you on Curiosity Stream, which is available
Curiosity
worldwide,
Stream.
and an online subscription starts from just $2.99 a month. Remember to use the promo code EPICHISTORYTV at sign up to get your first 30 days free. Thanks to Curiosity Stream for sponsoring this video.
Alliance with France. Now she breaks her oath. Oh boy. We are no longer the soldiers and Austrians.
Napoleon knew an invasion of Russia was a massive undertaking, especially as he still had an unfinished war in Spain that was tying down more than 200,000 troops.
But he took some troops from Spain, right? He even took some Spanish troops as well with him to go invade Russia, right?
Nevertheless, in 1811, he began to assemble the largest army Europe had ever seen. Around 600,000 men, though less than half of them were French.
Wow.
The rest came from allied states across Europe. There was a Polish corps from the Duchy of Warsaw, led by Prince Poniatowski.
Polish, Saxon.
A corps from each of the German kingdoms of Saxony,
Polish,
Westphalia, and Bavaria.
Wow.
From the Kingdom of Italy, as well as Swiss, Dutch, Croat, Spanish, and Portuguese units scattered throughout the army. There were even contingents from Prussia and Austria, France's recent enemies, now uneasy allies. Some of these allied troops, such as the Poles and Germans, were as reliable as their French counterparts. Others were very inexperienced, or, like the Prussians and Austrians, reluctant to be there at all. This gigantic formation was deployed in 3 armies. The main force under Napoleon himself, another led by his stepson, Eugene, and a third led by his younger brother, Jerome, King of Westphalia. Neither of these two were experienced commanders. Though one would distinguish himself on campaign, the other would not. On their left flank, Marshal MacDonald led 10th Corps with a large Prussian contingent, while the right flank was guarded by General Schwarzenberg's Austrian Corps.
You would think that he need like his main marshals as of right now. You would honestly think that this is like the most critical time where he needs like all of his marshals, the most experienced ones.
Another 100,000 troops were in reserve, including Marshal Victor's 9th Corps.
So he had
Initially,
two
the
marshals,
Russians
right?
only had 220,000 men to face this juggernaut, organized into Barclay de Tolly's First Army, Prince Bagration's Second Army, and General Tomasov's Third Army. They would be outnumbered 2 to 1. But in the run-up to war, Russia scored 2 crucial diplomatic triumphs. Sweden had been at war with Russia just 3 years earlier, a conflict which cost her Finland. By a curious turn of events, Sweden was now ruled by Napoleon's ex-marshal Bernadotte. But after Napoleon occupied Swedish Pomerania without warning, a furious Bernadotte promised Russia that Sweden would remain neutral. Meanwhile, a peace treaty with the Ottoman Empire ended Russia's 6-year war against its southern rival. These 2 agreements secured Russia's flanks from any strategic threat and freed up troops to face Napoleon's invasion.
as I've ever sent, but hasn't been
On the 24th of June, 1812, French troops began crossing the Niemen River into Russian territory. The army was so large, the crossing took 5 days.
Damn.
Napoleon's plan was to attack north of the impassable Pripet marshes and defeat Barclay's army, while Jerome pinned Bagration in place.
The fact that it was taking them so long to like get to Russia is just beyond me. Like, I wonder how long did they stop to get rest, because at this point they've been traveling a long time, especially the ones that's coming from Spain. I wonder if they had like a break, like if they had a break, how long the break was for, because it just seems as if like these soldiers are just, I don't know, like they're just always battling, they're always at war. They really never have like a year or two off. That's the way that it seems.
French forces would then swing south to trap Bagration. Napoleon expected the campaign to be over in 5 weeks. But the sheer size of the French army convinced the cautious Barclay that retreat was his only option. Prince Bagration, a much more aggressive commander by instinct, and often Barclay's fierce critic, was forced to agree. As they withdrew, they burned villages and crops, part of a scorched earth strategy to deny supplies to the enemy. In 4 days, Napoleon had reached Vilnius, but Barclay was gone. To the south, Jerome failed to pin down Bagration. So when Davout's First Corps swung southeast to trap him, he'd already withdrawn to safety. Napoleon's younger brother was out of his depth. Stung by the Emperor's criticism, humiliated when his troops were put under Marshal Davout's command, he resigned his post and returned to Westphalia. The campaign was already beginning to expose serious flaws in Napoleon's plan. Knowing his troops would struggle to live off the land in this impoverished region, he'd organized huge supply depots and transport units to feed the army. But wagons rolled slowly along Russia's bad roads, which were turned to rivers of mud by summer thunderstorms.
So your troops don't have any food. They've been traveling for days, weeks at a time. What was Napoleon thinking? What is the saying when he's getting in his own way, basically?
The army had to make frequent stops to allow its supplies to catch up. Bad news for Napoleon's plan to catch the Russians, but a much-needed relief for the many thousands of young conscripts in his army, not used to hard marches day after day. Many were soon dropping out with exhaustion. Others deserted. There were also huge problems of command and control over a vast multinational army that was 3 times bigger than any Napoleon had commanded before.
So how did Napoleon survive all of this? How he didn't get tired of like exhaustion and stuff like that? How was he able? Was it the adrenaline rush? I don't know. Was it like the shock? I please comment down below and let me know, what do you think that it was that kept Napoleon going? Do you think it was like his end goal, the goal that he was trying to accomplish? I mean, at the end of the day, even if you have an end goal, you still need to eat. You still get tired. You're human. Comment down below. Let me know.
La Grande Armée, once famed for its speed of maneuver, had become a lumbering beast. After a pause to rest and regroup at Vilnius, Napoleon resumed his advance. Barclay continued his retreat to Vitebsk, where he hoped Bagration's Second Army would be able to join him. But Davout blocked Bagration's path at Sultanovka, forcing him to make for Smolensk instead. At Vitebsk, Napoleon clashed with Barclay's rear guard, but once more the Russians escaped after setting fire to all the stores they couldn't take with them.
Damn.
Meanwhile, 300 miles away on Napoleon's southern flank, Russian Third Army attacked and defeated the Saxon 7th Corps, forcing Napoleon to divert Schwarzenberg's Austrian Corps to their aid. By the end of July, Napoleon had advanced 250 miles into Russia, much further than he'd planned. And the long marches in extreme summer heat continued to take a heavy toll on his men. Without fighting a major battle, the army had already suffered 20% casualties from exhaustion and illness, particularly typhus and dysentery.
Wow.
The army had entered Russia with 250,000 horses, but they were now dying at a rate of 1,000 every day
What?
from exhaustion and lack of fodder.
That's crazy.
It wasn't just cavalry horses that were dying, but the very horses that were supposed to haul the army's transport wagons, making a bad situation worse. This crisis in horsepower came just as the French light cavalry, Napoleon's eyes and ears, met their match in Russia's Cossacks.
And he still kept going? The fact that this man kept going says a lot. If Napoleon had Cossacks in his army, we would have been emperor of China long ago. Listen, the fact that this man seen all of this happening and still wanted to proceed and fight against Russia says a lot. He didn't give a damn about anyone.
Cossacks, self-reliant, proud, ruthless, and superb
Stupid.
horsemen, didn't play by the same rules as other European cavalry. Every day they shadowed Napoleon's army, swooping in whenever they saw an easy target, but melting away into the forests if they were attacked by a stronger force.
Moving like ninjas.
Cossacks, as well as Russian partisans, made hit-and-run attacks on French supply lines and depots, forcing Napoleon to divert thousands of troops to their defense. Alongside Russian regular light cavalry, they also prevented French patrols from carrying out reconnaissance, which meant that Napoleon often lacked good information about roads or the enemy's whereabouts. Napoleon stayed 16 days at Vitebsk, resting his troops and considering his options. Among his many mounting concerns was the security of his long, exposed flanks.
He should have retreated.
But at Vitebsk, he received news that Schwarzenberg had defeated the Russians at Gorodezhna. A week later at Polotsk, a French Bavarian force fought Wittgenstein's Russian First Corps to a standstill. Napoleon's flanks were secure for now. Although his main force had been reduced to less than half its original strength, Napoleon decided to push on to Smolensk
He should have
and
retreated
try to force
while
the
he was
Russians
able
into
to.
a decisive battle for the city. Barclay was indeed under pressure to give battle from fellow commander Prince Bagration and Emperor Alexander in St. Petersburg. The army's morale and Russia's honor required it, they told him.
Uh-oh.
With the First and Second Russian armies finally linking up near Smolensk, Barclay decided to attack Napoleon's army, which he believed was concentrated around Rudnya. The offensive was led by General Platov's Cossacks, who surprised a French cavalry division at Inkovo. But alarmed by false reports that Eugene's Fourth Corps was outflanking him to the north, Barclay called off the attack. Napoleon, reassured that Barclay's offensive posed no real threat, began a grand outflanking move to the south to take Smolensk and cut off the Russian retreat. The so-called Smolensk maneuver was Napoleon at his best, Using Murat's cavalry to screen his movements and keep Barclay in the dark, the Emperor reached the Dnieper on the evening of the 13th of August. His engineers quickly threw up 4 pontoon bridges, and by dawn the next day, his army was across. Marshal Davout led a second column across the river at Orsha. But a single Russian division, the 27th, fought a heroic fighting retreat from Krasny, delaying the French advance and buying time for Bagration to reinforce the Smolensk garrison. The chance for a surprise assault on the city was lost. And as the Russian army began to pull back, Napoleon displayed an uncharacteristic lack of urgency, even halting the army for a parade to mark his 43rd birthday.
What?
When the main attack on Smolensk began 2 days later, Napoleon opted for a frontal assault. 150 French guns battered the city as 3 French corps attacked its medieval fortifications. The Russians resisted bravely, but Barclay, fearing encirclement, ordered another retreat. With Smolensk in flames, the Russians began to pull out. Just as the French fought their way into the city, to scenes of utter devastation. Bagration's Second Army withdrew first. As Barclay's army followed, its rear guard was caught by Ney's Third Corps at Valutino. General Junot, commanding the Westphalian 8th Corps, had orders to cut off Barclay's retreat. But having crossed the river, he did nothing, and the opportunity was lost. A furious Napoleon swore that Junot would never now win his marshal's baton. The Battle of Smolensk cost both sides around 10,000 casualties and destroyed one of Russia's most historic and holy cities, but settled nothing.
In Moscow in 6 weeks we shall have peace. Yeah, okay.
After the missed chance to defeat the Russians at Smolensk, Napoleon paused once more to consider his options. His men were weary and far from home, and it was already late in the campaigning season. He considered sitting out the Russian winter at Smolensk and resuming the campaign in 1813.
That's what he should have did.
But now he was just 230 miles from Moscow.
That's a long way.
A century earlier, Peter the Great had moved Russia's capital to St. Petersburg.
What?
But Moscow remained its historic and spiritual heart, a prize for which the Russians had to fight.
That's
Napoleon,
a long way.
always a gambler, decided to push on. The Russians faced their own dilemma. Emperor Alexander had experienced a kind of religious epiphany that summer and rallied the Russian people to the country's defense, describing the war with Napoleon as a war to save Holy Mother Russia from the Antichrist. For months, the emperor had received conflicting advice to stand and fight or retreat. Now he decided change was needed. The cautious General Barclay kept his job, but the emperor summoned General Mikhail Kutuzov to take overall command of Russia's armies. Kutuzov had been beaten by Napoleon at Austerlitz 7 years before, but he'd since won several victories against the Ottoman Empire and was a true Russian, loved by the troops. Although Kutuzov agreed with Barclay's strategy of delay, he saw that constant retreats were destroying the soldiers' and the nation's morale. If Moscow was given up without a battle, the fallout could be disastrous. And so, 70 miles west of the city, near the village of Borodino, the Russian army prepared to make a stand. Europe was about to witness the bloodiest day's fighting of the Napoleonic Wars.
It's
to all
over
our
already?
Patreon supporters for making this
my
series
gosh.
possible.
It was just getting good and it's over already. Oh my goodness. But Napoleon was definitely getting in the way of his own self. yeah, he made a lot of mistakes. He definitely made a lot of mistakes. And if he kept pausing and thinking over about if he should pull back, keep going, obviously he knew, but he just didn't want to give up. And that's just like really weird. It's not really weird, but I just felt like he could have just made better decisions. Like, I don't know, maybe it was like his ego getting in the way. You know, he could have retreated and tried again another time. I don't, yeah, I don't agree with how things are going with Napoleon at all. Like, it's just, yeah, I'm not feeling it. Comment down below, let me know what you guys think. Give your girl a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, fam.